Welcome back to the City of Palms podcast, everybody. Today, it's pretty cold today. We didn't even have to turn the AC on. It's freaking chilly. It's like, what was it, like 40, 50 this morning? Something like that?
It was 38.
38 degrees?
Yeah.
I thought we were in Florida.
Yeah, iguanas were falling out of the trees, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was in the news, man. What the heck?
That's so funny. Was it like, I didn't really read the articles. Was it that they were getting so cold they were like passing out or something like that?
I guess, you know,
Yeah, they
cold-blooded,
get immobile.
you know?
They get immobile when they get that cold.
Oh,
They
poor
don't have
things.
energy, you know? So
Dude, poor things. I almost closed. Remember we were talking on an episode about the lizards in the AC unit? Dude, today I was moving up the like window. I was opening it to let air out of the house, and there was a little lizard in there, and I was trying my hardest not to like squish him. And I'm like, bro, and I was trying to like get him to go out the little hole in the screen. He got to safety, I think. But anyways, today we're gonna be talking about movies. We're gonna be talking about directing, flying drones, and Lord of the Rings. Man, I can't wait. Today we've got Camilo de la Vega.
that's right. Thanks for having me.
How you doing today, bro? How was work?
It was good. It was actually really funny today because it's kind of like a joke day. I went over and I had to edit a video and it had a donkey on it, like a legit donkey. So I'm like sitting there and I'm like trying to take it serious, you know, like this is a business I'm trying to like edit some videos for, and then I just like in the back of my mind it's like, there's a donkey in the screen. And then like every time I'm looking at these guys I'm like, just, you know, it's a donkey in the screen. Like, how can I take this serious, you know?
So you work for Waterman Broadcasting.
That's right.
Was that project, because you do a lot of commercial work and things like that, is that what that project was? Some sort of commercial for a business?
Yeah, so that is a business project for Kia Airport. So, yeah, it's gonna be airing in ABC and NBC. So.
Dang, is that your main grind right now? Is that employer?
So they're one of my clients, you know, like I work as a creative service producer there.
Yeah.
But then I have my production company, so that's kind of like my main grind right there, just trying to grow it, and you know.
Dang, and then you're going to film school as well currently?
No, I'm not.
You're done with it?
I'm done with it.
Where
Yeah.
where were you studying?
So I did. I went to FSW to get an AA degree on arts, and then I just been doing online school for the last couple of years.
Dope. Hell yeah. So, what is your you just recently put out that YouTube video, the one shot challenge, right? Was that
Yeah.
your most recent thing you've released on your channel?
Yeah, that's right.
What I was curious about that because it was just a one shot challenge. What difficulties go into shooting a scene like that just in one shot?
Well, you know, you gotta think about it. You know, like we're so used to the format of the movies of just cut, and that's what one of the biggest things that you get to do, like the movie magic, is the cut. So back in, you know, when movies got started, they would crank those cameras and they go, and then they would stop, and then they would replace the person, and then roll again, you know. So then they would get like a match cut, or they would do like, you know, make people disappear, or they would put people's heads on it. So that's like kind of like cinema's oldest trick, the cut. So trying to like go out there and just kind of come up with a story that actually serves the purpose of, you know, not cutting was kind of the challenge of it. It wasn't about, you know, the logistics of it. It wasn't about the camera angles. It was about, you know, figuring a story that was told well by just a one continuous movement.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you got, you know, Private Ryan, you know, introduction of D-Day, and, you know, it's like just one long take, you know, that takes you into war, you know, like,
Yeah.
oh my God, you know. So that's the purpose of the one take, you know. So finding the story of it was the actual challenge of it, like story that, you know, felt like it was like you need to tell a story and it's urgent, you know. So
Yeah. Plus, I feel like you're restricted as far as sets and stuff like that. Because if it's just one take, if you're going from scene to like different settings, you have to find a way to be able to do that without a cut.
right.
Man, isn't there another really famous scene in like Kill Bill or something like that where it's just a continuous shot through that one dojo or something like it? Or are there other, you said Private Ryan, are there any other iconic scenes that are one shot scenes?
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite ones is Boogie Nights. So it's kind of like the introduction to like the disco nights, the guy who runs the bar, so it starts outside. I mean, one of my favorites actually comes from Hitchcock, and it's A Touch of Evil. So he puts a bomb in a car, and then you follow the scene for the long time, and everything seems normal, but in the back of your head you're like, oh fuck, there's a bomb that will blow up any second. So it's one take, so you're like, when is it gonna blow up, when is it gonna blow up, when is it gonna blow up. So I think it's like 5 or 6 minutes that go on and on and on, and when the bomb goes off, you're like, oh fuck, finally. Like you get that release, you get that bomb that like just builds up, and you finally get to breathe. So those are some of my favorite one takes.
Dang. So then bringing it back, where was like was filming and directing, was that your first sort of creative passion, or was there something in your earlier like childhood and teenage years that you did? Like, were you painting back then, or were you involved with the cinema way more?
So like acting, I think that was kind of like my first passion for the art form. Like I was always involved on painting. I was always doing a sculpturing. Like I love doing art, and kind of express myself, but I never really follow any of those passions too much.
Yeah.
Until recent years. But acting was just kind of like so cool, and it was just maybe because like I didn't really understood. I thought that the actor made the movie. So I always like to I did like the school plays. I did the the coming up to the stage and telling the other kids when graduation was up. I was like the speaker of it and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of ignited the passion of it. So yeah, that's kind of like acting was like the first thing I kind of went for.
Okay, when did it evolve into film?
Oh, so it was kind of interesting because it wasn't until later on when I moved to the United States. So I'm from Colombia, and over there, I used to do drama club. I used to do local theater, community theater, all that kind of stuff. And then I moved here, and there was this, like a language barrier to everything. So it was, for me, like I couldn't just go out and get a role. I couldn't just go, So I was like, man, like me being 16, I wanted to be an actor. That was it, And then I was like, heartbroken, like, what am I gonna do with the rest of my life? That's it. But then I was like, well, what else can I do? And then I started, looking into like, cinematography, directing. Started looking into like other things, and I'm like, oh my god, like that passion, the earlier passion wasn't about me going and trying to act and trying to live these lives, but it's about telling stories. Like it was always like these stories that I kept going to. So finally like realizing like you have that day of like the epiphany, like like, oh, like this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like a funny story because like I had a couple of my best friends in Chicago. That's when I first moved to United States. That's where I landed.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just having fun, and we're like, oh, let's do a horror flick. So we picked up like an old camera that was sitting down, and me and my friends are like acting up, and one of us is the murderer, and we're getting chased around and blah blah blah. And I like I was like I wanted to act, so I was like in front of the camera, and then I went to sleep that night. And the next morning I'm walking down my house, and I'm just got this feeling. I'm like, just kind of like everything kind of just makes sense. Like, dude, you just want to tell stories. Go tell those stories. And that's it. Like, since that day, I was like, man, every time I watched a movie, every time I, went to a museum of film, or every time I tried to take a photo, I was looking for that story. Like, and that day that click in. So it's like, wow.
Dang. Oh, yeah. Do you write stories at all?
Oh yeah, that's I try to do it every day, for my work. I write stories for clients that want to get their product out. I write stories that passion me. I write stories that I see in other people, and I'm like, you got something to say, so yeah, that's another big thing.
So then when did what age did you move here to Chicago?
Were
you already out of high school?
I was 15.
Okay. Did you know, was there moving here compared to there, because you said you were in drama programs and stuff like that down there, were the education systems as far as pursuing your art, did you feel like any major differences coming to the States rather than Colombia?
I mean, over here, you got everything. You got everything you need. So I felt like, over there, you really had to grind to be an artist. You really gotta grind to be a photographer. You really gotta, you gotta be, top notch to really shine over there because there's so few opportunities. To where over here, I felt like I was more welcome to, like in my school, I didn't have theater class. Over here, I had theater class. So I was like, oh yeah, this is awesome. So there's a few more opportunities that you can go find, like for yourself. So yeah, it's a little different.
What? When did you move to Florida then?
That was in my junior year. So that was like I moved to Chicago when I was a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
So well halfway through freshman year because in Colombia, so our calendars, the end of the year is the end of the school year.
Oh.
To where here is the summer.
Yeah.
So when I moved here, they were like, well, you can repeat like you can repeat 8th grade and start freshman year from the beginning, or you can go in freshman year. It's like, just freshman year. So I was already halfway through freshman year when I came into school.
Okay. So then what school did you finish your senior year at down here in
Actually,
Florida?
Gulf Coast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. Is that when you, in high school, is that when you started dabbling in the local film?
Yeah. So I mean, I always had this passion for telling stories, and I was really lucky that actually my stepdad was a producer, but he did a lot more. So sometimes he would bring me along to do different kind of shoots, different kind of little projects, different art directing. He didn't do as much as video. He did a lot of media. So when the CDs was a big thing, that's what he did. He put all the CDs out. When TurboTax, came out, he was one of the people who helped put it all together. So he wasn't so much on the shooting or anything, but he was like more on the coming up with ideas and making them happen. So sometimes I got to go to shoot. Sometimes I got to like see the actors. Sometimes I saw the directors. So I was like, oh man, that's what I want to do. Like, like put me in the chair, But
Mm-hmm.
of course, like they had me running coffees and moving shit around. But
That's where it starts.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
then from there, did you go on to like, then you started dabbling in the camera operation, and then you started dabbling in higher level stuff, and then you got your way up to what you're doing now? Is that
Right.
kind of how it worked?
yeah. I mean, like once I knew what I wanted to do, which it was like make movies, I started to like, okay, what camera do I need? Like what do I need? So I got into cameras. What kind of software do I, so then I got into computers. So then I started building my own computers. Like I would buy cheap computers off eBay and then just beef them up. So then that would become, technology became one of my passions.
Mm-hmm.
And then like just like that little thing, it just led to so many other things, and it's just like such a big pool that it's really hard to dabble in every single little one. So it took a long time to really take the passion for telling stories to actually tell stories.
Yeah.
No.
Man, so you've had so much experience on sets and like big productions to tell this one story. I wonder what your opinion is on like this day and age. You see YouTube as a platform so many people are using to tell their stories, whether it's like vlogs or beauty vlogging or actually like films that people are posting on YouTube just through their own means, cameras that they bought and they use and stuff like that. Like someone like Casey Neistat. I'm not even that interested in like operating cameras or film or like all that really confuses me, and it's not like my artistic avenue. But even watching videos like his, it makes me like realize, just with a little lump of money, you can buy these bits of equipment and you can do everything that he's doing. You know what I mean? Is that something? Are there YouTubers you look at as super inspirational in that avenue?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I really feel like YouTube has empowered other people to come out and there and chase their dreams. And I mean, Casey did 360 videos in a year. I'm like mad respect for that guy because it takes me few days.
And they're beautiful too.
Yeah.
They're not just like basic vlogs with a little vlog camera. He like
Yeah,
films,
legit. So I think that I mean, today I was watching Indie Mogul, Hot Ones. it's just such a it really is about communicating with people. So it is about finding your voice. And YouTube, before you could only go to TV to advertise. Now you have this all million of other options to advertise. So it's about connecting people. And I feel like YouTube was one of those those companies that went out and said, if you got something to say, come to us. We'll help you, get it across the world. And that's why YouTube changed, everything, changed the game.
Yeah.
So where did the drone come in? Because that's you've done lots of work with drones and stuff. Was that something you dabbled with on your own just as like a little hobby, and then it led into your profession?
No, so actually I've been a big gig of video gaming my whole life. So, I started playing Halo 1. I started playing like all those like, games on the Xbox, games on the NEX, computer games. So, once I picked up the drone, I was like, oh, it's just like playing video games. I'm good at it, So then, like, I was like, okay, let's just make sure we don't crash, but let's try to do this crazy thing, So then it was like, like all those racing games all the time that my grandma was like, get the fuck out of the Xbox, like you're wasting your life. It paid off, like, hey grandma, shout out. but yeah, it paid off, just so that's kind of where the droning came
So
to
were
be.
you on a film set whenever you first flew a drone? Were they just like, hey, here's our drone, like try it out?
No.
What was your first time?
Actually, the drones kind of like starting, to becoming like a trend. Like it was like maybe 6 years ago, right? So at the time, if you ever needed to get high up with a camera, you would get this expensive jib arm. And, like it needed like 3 people. One person is pushing the tracks. One person is controlling the height of it. And then the other person is looking at the camera and focusing,
Yeah.
So it's so complicated. And I'm like, man, like, I mean, I don't have the money to do all these, but I want to make movies and I want to have that feeling. So this thing called the Unique 500 came out. And the Unique 500 had like this super cool idea. What they did is they had a drone, but then the camera would come off, and then you would like put it on this gimbal, so then you could put your phone or your iPod on it, and then your camera would be stabilized, so you could just like use it as a drone. And I was like, all right, I'm selling my camera right now. I need to get this right now. So like sure enough, like as soon as I like found someone in Miami that wanted to buy my Blackmagic camera, so I was visiting my cousin. I was like, yo, we gotta do this right now. Sold my camera, my first camera, bought my drone, and sure enough, like 2 days later, I crashed it. I crashed it, and it was like, and then I was like, oh, it still works, I gotta go buy some propellers for it. And then a day later, I crashed it again. And I was like, oh, fuck. So good thing I had warranty from Best Buy. And they gave me a new one, and then I was like, I'm gonna be really careful with you. And yeah, it's been probably like 5 years since I haven't crashed a drone, so so I got it out of my system right away.
Dope. Okay. I wanna get into the Russian Bride that you worked on, but I think we should take a break before that because I think this talk will lead past the 25 minutes. So we're gonna take a quick break, enjoy the ads in the meantime, and we'll be right back with part 2. Okay.
Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing by reading this ad. And let me tell you guys a little bit about Anchor. So, like I said, it's a one-stop shop, distributing, you put your podcast on. It couldn't be easier to use. My brother and I, when we started this podcast, we're looking around for a website. Where do we get our podcast up and running? How do we get it? Literally those exact questions. How do we get it on iTunes? How do we get it on Spotify? And I was trying to do that stuff by myself. And that's when I started looking up. And there's other ones you can use like JPod and all that. But let me tell you, Anchor, nobody's going to do it as great as Anchor. And most of all, it's free. So That's what you always do, man. That's what you love is Anchor being free. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start. That's anchor.fm/start to join me in the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. Once again, that's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast.
My GoPro got stolen.
Really? Which one did you have?
I had the 3 right when it came out, and then like a week later, it got stolen, dude.
What? From where? Out of your bag?
No, out of my fucking car. Like I parked my charger in my not in the garage, in the driveway, and then my dog is like freaking out. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
You can go whenever.
Oh.
No, you're good. You can.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm like, shut up, shut up, shut up. And she kept like freaking out. I should have known someone was robbing my ass.
What?
Yeah.
Was it unlocked or did they have to break?
So what they did is like, I guess the chargers had like a manufacturer problem where like you can just go out with like a tennis thing and it pops out the pressure of it.
Oh, I think I've seen that before. Yeah.
Pops up the security. So they just went up with like a ball and and then they took my like school books. They took my camera. I had just installed like these like little nice, like before the Apple screen came out, like I had like a digital screen on my car. It was like a 2008 or whatever, but that was hot at the time, and I had like installed it. They like took it out. The LEDs is bullshit, but.
Was the GoPro your most expensive piece of equipment that was in there?
Yeah.
Okay,
I was
well,
yeah, I sucked.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do I need to clap an intro?
No, you're good. Just,
Yeah.
All right.
Shout out to Lehigh Acres.
That's hilarious. Okay, so when we had stopped, we were talking about drones. So to bring it back to drones, have you ever had a problem with like, is wind an issue or birds or anything like plane turbulence, like flying too low?
I wondered what goes into a drone shoot.
Dude, it was so funny. Even just like a week ago, I was shooting in Lehigh Acres, and I'm flying my drone, and I see this bird just like fly right on top of it. I'm like, I see you, and then he like turn around, and then like the next time, like it wasn't just like it wasn't just flying on top of it. It was just kind of like going around it, and like every time he kept getting closer, and it was like eagle. It was like a big eagle. I'm like, all right, I might have to chill for a little bit. The client is looking at me like, what's the problem? I'm like, did you not saw the bird? It was bigger than my drone.
It
like,
steals the
chillax.
drone.
I would do it for a viral video, but that's already done. Like they already had that.
Turns out that was the same bird that robbed his car.
Shit comes full circle. That's hilarious. Is wind though? Is wind ever an issue, or are they?
Yeah. Sometimes, I get a FAA license to fly, so they, by the FAA, you gotta follow certain things, and airports, and like people, you're not supposed to fly by people, buildings, certain heights. So there's a lot of rules, like it depends on what kind of drone. So like I got 3 different drones. Depending on the conditions, you'll pick the right drone. So the bigger drones will take a little bit more wind. The little ones, 15-mile gusts will throw it around. And there's nothing more annoying, than you get out to your location, you're ready to shoot, and you're getting this awesome like scene, and then all the sudden it's like oh fuck, so it's all about planning, and sometimes you can't even plan for that because Mother Nature,
Yeah.
Right.
Does a gimbal help with like a good amount of the wind, and it has to be like really intense weather for it to just fuck up the shot completely?
It depends. Like when I was doing the Russian Bride, going back to that, like there was snow. It was snowing when I was shooting that thing, And the crazy thing about it is like the snow didn't mess it up as much or anything. It was just that like when I was operating, my hands were numb. Yeah, like, cause like, like I fly here in Florida, like it's nice all the time here. Like I've never had to, fly my drone in, -10 degrees shield. So we shot that movie in Michigan, and you know, like I come out there the first day, I'm not ready, and it's snowing, so I gotta clean the screen from the snow, and I'm like, come on, move, move, and my finger wouldn't go, you know, like it was like, you know, like I was trying to do, you know, my job, but it was hard, you know. So second day I knew better, like we got some hand warmers, you know, like special gloves and shit, but yeah, has to do. Weather's a lot, big thing.
Yeah, on that, I wanted to talk about the Russian Bride because that would you say that's the biggest project you've worked on so far in your career?
Oh yeah, hands down for sure. You know, we got Burntsev, who was like in all LA Law and baseball major leagues. Like he's a movie star, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool.
For the listener, the Russian Bride, it's currently in Showtime, right? And then in 2 years, it's picked up by Netflix and Hulu, and in 2 years is when it'll be on those platforms.
Yeah, so they already bought the rights for it. So yeah, it'll come out in Netflix, Hulu, you know, every other streaming platform. But Showtime kind of just went in and bought the rights for it for 3 years. So 2019 was the year that it came out, and then you know that year went around, this year, next year, and then it'll go into like everything else. But for a long time, actually, for like about 6 months, you could go to Walmart in the red boxes and you could just rent it out of the,
dope.
you know. So
yeah, I watched it
yeah.
on YouTube. I rented it on YouTube. So if any listener wants to watch it, it's a really good movie. It's like a thriller, spooky horror type. Like it's a really good movie, and it's got beautiful shots of the estate, which I assume were all done by you. And I was gonna ask, you already answered a couple. It took place in Michigan, is where the shooting was.
Yep, Lake Orion.
And then I was gonna ask if the weather was like part of post production, or if that you actually shot in that weather.
Yeah, we shot. We were waiting for that like big storm to come through,
What?
and you know we were like, you know, like the drone, like, you know, they hired me for 2 weeks to go out there and shoot the drone scenes, and you know, while I was there, they were like, you know how to operate red. I'm like, yeah, that's my camera. Let's. So they're like, all right, well, you can operate. You know, we need more people, but you know, we were just waiting, and sure enough, like we all went to sleep at like 3 a.m. and the director just like I'm sleeping because it's cold time. When you go to sleep at 3 a.m., they don't expect you to be in set until 12, you know. So the director is there at like 8 a.m. like, we got snow. It's snowing. You know, he looked like a little kid. You know, he's like excited. Yeah, we're ready. You know, I have my drone. I've been waiting for this. This is my moment. You know, so like, you know, we went out there. You know, I'm flying, and you know, I want this, I want that, I want, you know. All right, I finally, it was like the second day of shooting, because you know they had some establishing shots that they wanted to do when there was snow in the ground, but it was not quite snowing. Yeah. So they got some establishing shots, but the shot was when the big storm kicks in and the power goes down. And so I want this, I want that. I already have figured out my gloves. I had hand warmers. Like, I'm ready. You know, that was really, you know, like the, you know, like the saying goes, you know, fake until you make it. You know, like once you're there and this director's telling you know, like now you're making it. You know, yo, like okay, cool. You know.
Man, so how many? I imagine drone shots like that are more complicated than normal, like B-roll scene setting type like shots. But how long does it take to shoot like a day's worth of shooting for like drone shots? How long of a day is that?
It really is not as long because of the limitation of like how long they can fly.
Okay.
So it actually is the contrary. They had to be really planned out. That's why I wasn't flying all the time. I was waiting for that storm to come through to get it. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of things like, you know, I was like, I always like to kind of frame my shot and then pull out, so then you can reverse it and get it perfect.
I wonder with the scene with the lady when she's in the like the basement or whatever, there's a shot where like it's close under her and it goes way back, and I figured you flew in and they just reversed it.
No, because of the snow, dude. So like I kept you know, like that's what I like to do. But what happens if you reverse the snow? The snow is not falling. It's flying up, right?
I never even thought about that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that go into it. So, you know, so that's when the director comes in and, you know, you're like, okay, this is the framing you want? Poof. I got it, right? Yeah, but you got to execute now. But what you mean? Just reverse it. No, the snow would be, like, going up then. So, you know, like, in the shots that actually snow falling, there was no faking it. Like I had to get it. I had to get it. That's why there was no more faking it. Like that was like and I mean, they're paying you good money, to be there on set, so
Yeah.
so they expect you to perform, so it's like a lot of pressure. And I mean, you think about it, the director doesn't go around talking to anybody, especially on a bigger budget like that. He just talks to he doesn't even talk to the camera operator. He talks to the cinematographer, and the cinematographer goes and talks to the camera operator, which is what I did on the other side. But then having the director right there, like telling me what to do, was just so freaking cool,
Man, so what do you think, having experienced that project and working on it, what do you think was like the biggest thing that you learned going away from that?
I think that the biggest thing I learned while I was doing the Russian Bride was that it really takes a village. Like, like I could accomplish just so much by myself, but we had 15 people on set. We had 10 like people just helping us getting everything done, and then we had like a producer, a chain producer, executive producer. So we had so much people in there that it was just like, I remember I was like, man, like it kind of sucks to be a camera operator. And then one of the producers was like, what do you mean? And he was like, you're just feeding this monster. You're just like, everybody is just putting a little bit to feed this giant monster of movie that is happening. So it just really takes a lot of people to, get to that level. And, I wish I could do everything myself, but, you need that people, you need that support.
Yeah, for sure. And then what kind of doors did that open for you after working on that?
Well, a lot of like people took me a lot more serious when I went to look for a job. They're like, he's working a bigger set. A lot of I mean, I think that it's just the first movie you see those credits roll and you see your name on it. You know what I mean? And it's not a movie that was on your local channel, or it wasn't a movie that was whatever. Like this is like a movie that got distributed worldwide, that went to like the biggest horror film festivals in the world, that won like real trophies. You know what I mean? So it's like everything just happens so fast, and then all of a sudden you're like, man, like I was part of that team. So
Yeah.
so it's
That's gratifying.
yeah, the confidence that you get, everything.
Hell yeah. Okay, so I guess I have something I wanted to say about Lord of the Rings. I guess that could lead into the next thing. Because have you seen? They have a really cool like little YouTube series about the filming of The Hobbit. Have you seen those behind the scenes things with Peter Jackson by chance?
I have seen some of them. Yeah, I can't lie, I haven't.
Have you seen The Hobbit?
Yeah.
Because I wondered like how you would compare the two, because I'm like a huge fan of all of it, but I definitely have like my differences between The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. But like you were saying, it takes a village. With those little vlog series of behind the scenes of shooting those Hobbit movies, it was really, really cool by the end of it, because they would do it like in like a little 30-minute video as they were like this portion of the movie, and then like next 30 minutes when they're working on that, it was like almost like a vlog behind the scenes of the set life, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then by the end of it, you see like they're wrapping up the final shoots, they're doing like the reshots and whatever, and then like by the end of it, you see this whole room of just like all these different people, actors and like cast members and this and that, and like all the people behind the scenes, and they all had like were celebrating doing such a great thing. And like a trilogy like that, they had been with each other for years, especially the Lord of the Rings actors. They've been through all those movies, all the Hobbit movies. So by the time like Orlando Bloom and like all these people who've been in since the beginning, like once it was wrapping up, it was really cool to see all that just like come together, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the main thing that differentiate the both of them is, believe it or not, before Stanley Kubrick died, the people who wanted to produce the Lord of the Rings came up to him and were like, we want to make this movie. And he went, Lord of the Rings, impossible. You
Really?
can't make that. And he, take in mind, Stanley Kubrick is one or the greatest film director ever. And he said it was impossible. So really, like the first Lord of the Rings had to come up with some crazy technology to accomplish what they did. They kind of set the bench for what now we see, in Avengers, Age of Ultron. Like, they were the first to get on, like, the heavy CGI. They invented this thing where, like, like, each character would be, like, model, right? And then it would have this AI give him a personality and traits and things, so they wouldn't all act the same. So all those crowd generated shots, they came up with all that. They were the first ones. So they did a lot of more innovation than what The Hobbit did.
Yeah.
The Hobbit already kind of followed the steps on what they did for a long time.
Yeah, and I noticed by the time The Hobbit came out, this isn't like like something I have against the movies per se. It's just something that's different than the original trilogy was. By the time The Hobbit came out, they already had so much advanced technology with like CGI and stuff that there were way more shots that were just completely digital, when like
Right.
Lord of the Rings, they had a lot of that too, but it was more like they had a lot of practical effects. They had a lot of like costuming, like all the orcs, those were just like practical effects costumes, it was just people dressed up as creepy orcs. But in the Hobbit, they still have tons of that, but there's also like even just the main villains like Azog and like those people, they're all
Fake.
just 100% fake,
Yeah.
and like, it's just different. But I guess from like a behind the scenes standpoint, I appreciate the practical effects so much.
I mean, and then you can say that in a way, but here's the thing: like you see Smog,
You couldn't accomplish that with practical.
no, and you see Smog, and there's an actor behind him, and
Yeah.
he's acting the part, and you could feel him, But I think that the Hobbit, the biggest problem I have, is they showed it at 60 frames. And we're so used to, 24 frames per second. That's the movie standard. And it just felt like a cartoon. Like, all the animation felt like, it didn't...
Yeah.
It felt like, I'm like, everything is so perfect. Everything is like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To where, like, when you see, like, I don't know, like, the Fellowship, or, like, the Two Towers, those fighting scenes, they're
Grungy,
dirty.
yeah.
They're dirty, you know?
Mhm.
Like, they're going at it, and they're, so I feel like that dirtiness is what the second part of it, The Hobbit, just kind of felt, because it felt just too CGI.
Yeah, and the one thing, because I noticed that too, and I try to justify it by, I keep in mind that The Hobbit, originally the story, it reads kind of more like a fairy tale, because Tolkien intended for it to just be like a story more to tell to like his
The kids,
And,
yeah.
and so it reads way differently than Lord of the Rings is very dry, very like war oriented, and it almost reads like a war novel, and The Hobbit doesn't read like that. The Hobbit's way more fairy tale, and I think that the movie, it translated pretty well because it was so like kind of like animated, and just like, you're right, like it felt more like almost like a kid friendly movie, when Lord of the
Okay,
Rings does
yeah.
not feel like a kid movie, you know what I
no.
mean? But like I said, like I don't hold any over the other, but
I like the original one.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
because of the spot it has in my heart, like the original ones are always gonna be better, because those are the ones that, I mean, I guess I read all of them, but like I remember reading those books in middle school, and watching the movies and playing with the little toys as a kid and stuff. And The Hobbit was cool too, but I was already an adult when that came out, so it wasn't like as impactful.
Yeah, I think even in the storytelling, they got a little lazy, with it,
Yeah.
because The Hobbit was only one book,
Yeah.
and they made it into 3 parts.
Mhm.
That's a cash grab for me. Come on, Hollywood, you gotta stop doing that. I'm
Yeah.
looking at you right there. So they did it more for the money than they did it for, because if The Hobbit, and actually, it was funny because the original Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson wanted to do it as a one-off movie.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and they were like, no, we can't,
No way.
no way, there's too much. So then they were like, all right, we're gonna do it in 2 movies, and that's how they pitch it to the studios. And then the studio was like, yo, this is a trilogy, all right? And then that's how Lord of the Rings happened.
It
and,
only
and,
makes sense. Yeah.
and bro, like, to be honest, like, one of my favorite movies of all time, Return of the King. That's I mean, cinematic, technology wise, directing wise, like the magic of cinema, it all came alive
Yeah,
with
yeah.
that movie,
Mhm.
with what they could accomplish, what they could do, what they did is just like, it changed cinema forever, and that's one of those pivot points that you see in history. And I mean, 14 Oscar nominations, is not an easy task You know, the
Yeah.
following is the Titanic, and you know.
Yeah, and I feel like they translated things like symbolism and things that Tolkien was trying to portray in his novels and his stories in general. They translated that to the film so well. Like with one thing I always jump to is the the scenes where it shows the creation of the Uruk-hai and it shows the falling of Isengard, and when they're like cutting down all these trees and burning everything to make weapons and smelting all this ore and like all the like creating the army and whatever. I don't remember where I read this or watched this, but you notice in the books and in the movies, you never see the good guys producing anything. You never see them producing armor. You never see them. Yeah, besides that. But like you don't see this like mass deforestation, this like massive like urbanization, because Tolkien, like the time he lived in, that was like a big thing, was industrialization and just like all of this
War.
just
I mean,
ran
he left
and
through
war
the
and
war.
war.
He
Yeah,
left
yeah.
through the
There's
time.
a bunch of parallels to the world wars and stuff like that in the
Right.
films, and that's why like it couldn't have been light like The Hobbit. It had to be that like gritty, just like dark. And then also it's just so quotable, dude. Like in my life, I still, the scene where Sam and Frodo are with Smeagol and Osgiliath, and they're trying to like get out of
The city, yeah.
they're
the
trying to
city.
escape from Foromir's grasp, and there's a point where like Frodo's just ready to give up, and Sam gives this like great monologue, dude, and at the end he's just like something about holding on, and then
Yeah,
Frodo's
I
like,
can't carry the ring, but I'll carry you. Whoosh. Ah, man.
yeah.
Why is not my friend like that?
And
My
I
best
remember,
friend.
I remember as a kid, we used to always hate on Sam, because like it was funny to
Yeah.
like how Smeagol would just like call him the fat hobbit and just like make fun of him. We would always as kids be like, yeah, it's silly. But now like as an adult, I realize he's my favorite character. He's like, maybe not. Legolas is always my
It's
favorite.
hard, yeah.
Legolas
I
and
was like, I'm like,
Legolas and Gandalf are my favorite. But as far as like crucial characters, Sam is like one of the most crucial characters.
bro, I mean, he's the pinnacle of bromance, bro. Like if I was gonna have a bromance with anybody, it would be Sam. So I get you. I feel you in that.
And then you mentioned earlier off the air about, you said when you were talking about your favorite movies and stuff, you said BS and AS are how you separate your like film life.
Yeah.
Could you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So there was BS, like how they have AC and BC, before Christ and after Christ. So to me, like, before Stanley Kubrick and after Stanley Kubrick was the difference. So before I saw 2000s with Space Odyssey, I was like, this kid who wanted to act, who wanted to, be involved with movies. And then I saw 2001 Space Odyssey, and I was like, man, like, that's deep. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I went on, I dream about it, I thought about it, and, so before Stanley, that was all BS. After Stanley, it was all what changed it all, so.
Was that during your time camera operating and stuff, or was that like kind of before you took off with it?
No. I mean, like, I always been, like, Star Wars fan. I always loved movies. I always that was my, to go. Like, if I had any free time, movies was where I spend my time.
Mm-hmm.
But 2001 Space Odyssey has one scene that really, changed everything, and is the time where the monkey takes the bone, and it's supposed to be an allegory to us creating tools, and he takes the bone and whoosh, swings it out in the air, and then the bone is flying around, and it becomes a orbital satellite, and it goes from like prehistory to like the future, and that was a concept that I would just couldn't fathom in my mind. I'm like, how can something make this giant leap on the future and the past and everything? It's just like, damn, Stanley, damn.
Man, you got any more questions before we jump into the last segment?
I do. Do you feel the same way about Harry Potter as you do about Lord of the Rings? Is that a
That's
good film for your life?
See, I liked Harry Potter. I followed it, and I watched it and all that, but I feel like, it didn't resonate as deep inside because of the struggle that they have. Like, I feel like we bond with people, we bond with characters because of the the hardness that they have to, withstand.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, Harry Potter was like a very internal struggle. It was like about him who survived. It was something that was like kind of pushed upon him, and he had the responsibility. To whereas Lord of the Rings was like the responsibility was of the humankind of Middle Earth. So I feel like sometimes the villains, the better villains make the better stories.
100%.
And I feel like that's where it kind of fell short, to where like I feel like Voldemort wasn't a threat, to whereas like Sauron, like, oh fuck.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's, I mean, I not to throw any shade, I mean, I love the movies and I love everything about Harry Potter, but you just can't compare the both. Like Lord of the Rings give you a sense of magic that was kind of like disturbing in a sense.
Yeah.
Harry Potter just kind of feels safe. Like I wanted to be that wizard, to where like I would not want to be in Frodo's shoes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you watch anime at all by chance?
Yeah.
Have you seen Naruto?
Oh yeah.
Because I totally agree with what you say about the villains, and that's a good point about Voldemort, because I love Harry Potter, like it's one of my favorite things ever. But as far as villains go, the Death Eaters and Voldemort, they're not as like ominous and scary until the last handful of movies, because Hogwarts and Dumbledore, like everything's so protected there that the kids can just like do their kid thing, and it makes it more like young adult fiction. When like with Lord of the Rings, one of the scariest parts about the Dark Lord is he's everywhere and nowhere, like with the ring, like his forces are everywhere.
Yeah.
And then I always point to the Akatsuki too in Naruto, because you've watched Naruto Shippuden, right?
Yeah.
Because like in that show, I always felt that too, where to like each of them were so unfathomably like powerful. Like Itachi, as one person, you could think like no one can beat him, and then you see Hidan, and you're like, well, no one can beat him, and like each of them are so scary, and they're like everywhere at all times.
Right, the stakes are higher.
Yeah,
the stakes are higher. I mean, like if you lose one of those fights, the hidden live is going down.
Yeah, and on top of that, the soundtrack, like how you said, sound plays such a vital role in film.
Of course.
Like with like the anime, like Naruto and Lord of the Rings and all this, they all have this like iconic sound behind the dark side. And Star Wars too, where like when you hear that, like when you hear the Akatsuki theme, you like get this like pit, like, oh shit, what the hell's about? Like when they show up to the Leaf Village, you're like, someone's about to die.
Down.
Or same with like when the ring wraiths show up to the Fellowship, you're like, someone's getting stabbed right now, you know what I mean? It like makes you scared.
And it's funny that you mentioned the sound, because I mean, if you think about it, there was a big leap from sound design when Star Wars came out. I mean, when like now we know the sound of a lightsaber, like by memory. We all hear it right now. Yeah. But before then, what is a lightsaber sounds like?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they have a big what walkers, like laser. Like I mean? So these people had to be really evolutionary. Like they almost have to figure out what the future looks like.
You're right. Yeah. And now we coin all those little sound effects and sounds to those movies, like yeah. It's 100% true for sure. Damn. So do we get into the last segment then?
I got one more question actually too. Do you feel the same way about TV as you do movies? No. Really?
No.
Why? Just more that goes into a movie?
I work in TV every day, and I mean, there's shows like, Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad was one of the, I think it's the first show that I've ever seen that it resembles a movie, because, it really feels like a, 50-hour movie, like all throughout.
It does, yeah.
But before Breaking Bad, I mean, there's some, it's changing every day, it changes a little bit, but it really, TV to me is like low budget, it's rush, it's to whereas like movies, the movies that we see and stuff, there's people who sit there for a year making 2 seconds of that movie that you watch. To whereas on TV, I mean, it's more casual, it's low budget, it's like, and I mean, people, look, here's the best example I can put. When I'm watching TV, I'm at my house in my pajamas, the TV is my jester. you know, it's little there. It makes some noise. It's whatever. But when I will go to the movies, that big screen, I'm no part of. He's not a jester anymore. You know, it's this giant, massive screen that is like absorbing me into this world. You know?
Yeah.
So I always feel like that's the big difference on it. That like I just can't feel as immersed on TV because it's just not that experience to where I was like, you know, you go watch an IMAX movie, you go watch a 3D movie, you go watch, dude, I'm right there with Han Solo, you know, like we're both flying the Millennium Falcon. To where like in my phone it's just like, oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you said such a big part of it for you is storytelling, and I feel like with TV shows a lot of times they kind of like try to milk seasons, you know what I mean? Where like because I feel like the best stories, and I notice this a lot with anime too, where like if you know where the story is gonna go and your intention is to go from here to such and such amount of seasons and episodes to reach there, you know, like with Harry Potter, she knew where she wanted it to end, and Lord of the Rings, he knew where he wanted it to end. And a lot of times with movies, I feel like sometimes they don't know exactly where they want it to end and just like call it. When something like Breaking Bad, it feels like they had that vision of the story and they just went to execute it. And same with like Game of Thrones. Obviously that was a book, so like they had like a roadmap to go off of. But a lot of shows, I feel like they don't have that. So the story just kind of like gets muddled until it just phases out.
It's just episodical, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, like, you don't want to create something in a TV show, and this is the hard part of TV. You know, you can create a story that at the end of the 30 minutes, you know, it tells you a complete story. You always gotta lift it in, like, there's a new problem, there's a new thing, there's a cliffhanger.
Makes you want
You
to
know,
watch the next one.
It makes you want to watch the next one, exactly. So the beauty of it and the struggle of it is you have to tell so much of the story without telling all of the story.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So you gotta play your cards right. To where in a movie, you know, every crucial point, it's like, you know, the character is changing so much, and that decision will split off in two different ways. Like, Luke, come to the dark side. You know? No, father. You know what I mean? Like, that's a pivotal point in the story. To where, like, in a TV show, if, like, you know, that was a TV show, you know, it's like, maybe he texts him. He's like, "Yo, you wanna come to the dark side? I'm your daddy." You know. You know, you gotta leave
I don't
that.
think so.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like,
It's almost like it has like, because like the climax of a movie is like this, or like a trilogy or something like that, or anything. The climax is this ultimate point of like you said, like a decision to be made or a fight to be won or this, and then it goes to like the resolution of the story. When with TV shows, you have to do that in each episode and also as a show. So like sometimes it's like more underwhelming, the climaxes, because each episode a climax might be as simple as like in Breaking Bad, we have to get the fly out of the laboratory. You know, there's the one episode
Right.
where they have to get the fly out. That's the like story of that episode, but it's in this longer story of
right.
Breaking Bad.
And that's why movies have not movies, but TV shows have season finales. Those are the pivotal points.
Yeah.
That they're like, oh my god, so much happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to where, and you have to wait a year for it. I mean, come on, Westworld, hurry up. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel that.
So we asked you beforehand if you had any, and we asked all of our guests this before we wrap up the episode. If you have any like paranormal or ghost or alien encounter, any sort of crazy stories to tell, anything you want to share, you can. The mic is all yours.
All right, so I got two stories.
Okay.
I'll start with the alien one,
Okay.
which is actually really funny. It was like, so I was a scout when I was a kid. So me and all the scouts went out to camping in the middle of Villavicencio. That's a city in Colombia. It's about 45 minutes away from Bogota, which is my city, right? Maybe an hour. So we're there, and you know, like the scouts have like they have like this very, like it's a routine, you know, like you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, you get to eat. You do this. It's almost like the military. So I was really thirsty, and I was making, you know, the agua de panela, which is like just a lemonade. Just imagine it's lemonade. And I'm like making lemonade, and I'm really thirsty. And I'm like, yo, I want some of this. And I go, an alien! And like there's 5 of these guys, you know, we're in the middle of the, you know, of this camping site. There's no lights, and they all turn around. And they're all take a big ass spoon of the drink, you know, like I'm like, and then all of a sudden we see this thing that goes push, and it stands still, and then it goes push, and it stands still, and then it push, disappears, and I'm there like.
You called them out, and they're like, "Oh fuck!"
Yo, what? What? so to the day, I mean, they all. I mean, I was thirsty, yo. I was just trying to have a drink of this lemonade, but I think that was a encounter of the third kind. I think, you know, because I never seen a helicopter do that. I never seen you know, it's like just this little light. Gone.
It was the next model drone.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And that was one of the stories. I mean, the other one, it was actually scary. I got So my great grandma, she used to own a farm in El Caquetá, and that's somewhere where, you know, you gotta from the city, the main city. So I grew up in Bogota, which is New York, in Colombia. 7 million people, highly populated, a lot of shit going on. My great grandma was from the Caquetá, which is only about 10 hours away from the Amazon. So you gotta think, you know, it takes 24 hours to get there, and then there's no more roads. So it's 10 more hours where you gotta go in a donkey, on a boat, on a hydroplane to get to the Amazon, you know? So we're in the middle of nowhere, you know? And, you know, she had people who take care of her farm. You know, it was a big farm. She has many, many acres. And, you know, all the kids, I was one of them, were playing. So the house was a big L. So it was like this side of the, okay, so like the L is here, right? So the kitchen is here. The bathrooms are here, and the rooms are here in like this side and this side, and then that was all like wood panels, and then, you know, the horses stay in this area, so the horses are here, and there's like a little walking area that is like lift up about 2 feet off the ground, so snakes, scorpions, all that crazy shit doesn't get in your bed when you're sleeping.
Okay.
So we're playing to all the kids, about maybe 8 or 9 of us, my cousins, the people that take care of the farm, and me and my cousins that are from Bogota are running around the L, right? We're running and we're playing a game, you know, we're racing, right? So I'm one of the older kids, and, you know, so I'm running a lot faster than them, right? Running a lot faster than them, and, you know, I'm doing laps around them, and we're winning, right? And I start fucking with them, so I started, like, when I'm running behind them, I go boo, and they're like, ah, you know, like freaking out, you know. So I'm like, ha ha ha, fuckers, you know. So I'm like fucking with them, and, you know, I get a lap into them, I get a second lap into them, and I'm like, so this is the L, right? So they're like, I catch up to them, and I'm like, I'm gonna wait in this corner right here until they go all the way around, and then I'm gonna scare them when they come into this side. And I'm standing there, and I see a dark figure in the distance, like right here, where there was like they had like a little farm that they grow like tomatoes, they grow basil, and I see like this little figure, and I'm like, who is that? And I know all the adults are inside, you know, having dinner, they're all sleeping, you know, the kids are playing right now, everybody's inside. I'm looking at it, and it looks at me, right? And I just get this really uncomfortable feeling. Like, I feel like I feel tense. And then I see him. It looks like a guy. And there's like just this little, you ever seen sugarcane grow?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just this little stick, like maybe like this thick. So it's there, and I see him right next to it, and he just takes a step and disappear. And I mean, keep in mind, I can hear the kids running around like, hey, yeah, we're running around, you know? And I can hear him, but I see someone, and he just disappears, like, into, like, this tiny little thing. And I'm like, what the fuck? and I can't move. Like, I'm terrified. I'm like, and you know, like, I'm just like there, like, the fuck. And then like the thing just like whatever the fuck it was, it just comes out of like this tiny little thing, and then just comes out and like looks at me, and I'm like, you know, I can hear the kids getting closer and closer to get to like this little side of the to where they would see it too, and I'm like, and then it does it again. It just disappears. Like it's just this little fucking sugar cane, and he's fucking with me. He's like, bloop, gone. And I'm like, what the heck? So it finally comes back, and then like, you know, at this point I get like a fever. Like I feel like my whole body's burning, and it's looking at me, and like, keep in mind, there's no lights. There's no lights whatsoever. The only kind of lighting you got in there, it's candles, right?
Damn.
So the only candle I see, it's in the window that is in the kitchen, like right here, right?
Uh-huh.
So like I grab it, and like I'm like I point at it, and then I hear the kids that are coming right into the corner, and like it happens so fast, but again, like in my mind it took forever, like it was forever, and I go kind of like you know, and then the kids come and they're like ah! And I'm like you know, and then it was gone, and I never knew what it was. I never, but I know like it was just fucking with me. It was just saying like, oh yeah, you were scaring these little kids, well I'ma fuck with you too.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, probably the devil. Who knows?
Dude, I was just talking off the air about like, you know, should we even still do the ghost story segments? Because like, I don't know if people are into it. I don't know if Gus even like talking about it. That was a great fucking story, dude.
Bro, I've like, and you know, like, in the sense, you know, like I must have been like 13, 14 years at the time, but like it was just like right now, like I could see the figure just disappearing on that little tree. Like keep in mind, like I said, the only light that you see is the moon, the stars, and the little candles you have around. And I don't know how could you do that. I mean, I wish I had the special effects to do that back then.
Yeah.
But that was some real stuff right there. It's crazy.
So how did that affect the rest of your stay at that house?
Well, you know, like I see the kids coming. I mean, I'm like, oh, yeah, you guys catch up to me. I'm gonna go back to sleep. All right.
You're like, everything's fine.
Yeah, no. I went to sleep,
Oh.
and you know, like it's, you know, I mean, it was my grandma's house, you know, so I was like, everybody, protect me, God.
Did you ever tell them about that?
No, I never. I mean, I told my grandma about it, and she said, you know, there's a lot of spirits, there's a lot of crazy shit. She told me, like, my grandma told me some, like, crazy things that happened to her when she was young. Like, she said, like, oh, yeah, like, you know, spirits will come and try to take you in the night. And I'm like,
oh, my goodness.
But think about it. Like, this is the Amazon. Like, we're, like the nearest village, it's about 12 hours on a donkey.
Fuck.
You know what I mean? On a horse, like 8. You know what I mean? So like, you know, like all those folklore stories that you hear, all that shit, that's where that shit started.
What?
Like in the middle of like nowhere. And like, you know, I mean, when you're there, you're just hopeless because you know that if something happens, I mean, if you get bit by a snake, you ain't gonna have any hospitals to go to.
Dang.
If you hurt yourself, you know, yeah, they gotta take you on a horse, and then you get in a motorcycle, and then you get in a car, and then you make it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's.
Damn. Ay, ay, ay. So, when was the last time you visited that house?
Actually, a year ago.
Really?
Yeah.
How was it this time as an adult?
Well, you know, I mean, my great grandma passed away like a few years ago,
Oh,
so it was
R.I.P.
it was kind of hard to visit it there.
Yeah.
We kind of went by, we kind of passed by, and it was really nice because, you know, some of the best memories I have as a young kid was not on the city, but just having fun with my cousins in the middle of nowhere you know, just jumping in the river, you know, swimming with alligators, seeing snakes, going out and, you know, like, you know, milking the cows, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so it felt really nice, you know, and I brought my camera with me, so I got some like really cool photos of just how it is in the middle of nowhere. And you know, I spent when I was there about a year ago, my day looked like I woke up when the roosters start waking, like, you know, they were like, "Arr!" and then you would wake up, and then you would go milk the cows, and then you had to let them out to like so they can feed, and then you would go and you would chop up some trees, you would go hunt, you would go to the river, get some fish, get the fish, now that's breakfast, go get some, you know, eggs from the chicken, whip them out, make some omelettes, you know, so everything was so fresh, you know, go feed the pigs. So, you know, there's a bunch of dogs running around, then you gotta take the motorcycles and go out to the middle of nowhere and rebuild like, you know, a fence that has been taken by the fires. It's just, you know, it's like a whole different thing. Like,
Man,
it's like,
whole different
and
lifestyle.
you forget, I mean, like, what's a phone? Like, you forget about like everything, and you're just there, you know, just kind of enjoying the beauty of it. You know, you breathe, and you can, you know, your lungs are filled with just the cleanest air. You know, you know, but you're still in the back of your mind. You're like, if something happens to me, I'm dying. You know,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like, so.
Man, that's wild. You're a great storyteller, dude.
Ah, thanks.
I just like got this whole picture in my head of this village in Colombia.
I do too, dude. Honestly.
Hell yeah. And thanks for coming, bro.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.
We have the last little section. You can look at this camera and you can plug anything. Like we already mentioned what you currently do for work, but if you have like upcoming projects you're working on, any like websites or social media you want the listeners to look for, you can shout it out now.
Oh yeah, so my Instagram is Camilo Film. You can follow me in there. I post some pictures and some dumb stuff about my film career. I'm currently putting a short film together for the Fort Myers Film Festival. So I'm planning to shoot that in the next couple days. It's called The Dinner Scene. I'm actually, I don't know what I'm gonna name it yet. If you got a name, it's about two people having dinner, and everything gets really crazy when one finds out that the other's intentions are not what, you know, you thought they were. So dinner scene, you know, whatever. I'm working on that, and then, you know, just that's it, you know.
Hell yeah,
yeah.
dude. I feel like we gotta have you back because like there's also painting stuff we didn't talk about, car stuff we didn't talk about because like you're super into like you've seen some dope cars on some of your shoots, right? I've seen your Instagram. You've got some cool cars on there.
Oh yeah. I got to drive a Murcielago one time, and, you know, NASCAR and all that type of stuff. So yeah, and I like I said, you know, I mean, filmmaking is really my passion. I try to spend all the time that I can, you know, writing, coming up with stories, you know, doing my production for my company or for NBC or ABC. But, you know, sometimes when I need to unwind, I'll go paint, I'll go draw, I'll go take some photos. So that's a whole thing that I'm trying to, you know, build up a little bit more onto. So
For sure, yeah. That's healthy for the brain. But seriously, bro, thanks for coming. We got to have you back because this has been so much fun.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Where can they find us at, Danny?
Oh, you can find us at City of Palms Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, anywhere you listen to podcasts. We got new episodes up every Monday.
And we might be in Nashville upon listening to this, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we should be once this
Yeah,
episode
we should
drops.
be
We'll
once
in-
this. Yeah.
having fun in
Hell yeah.
Tennessee.
There it is. There it is.
All right, this has been episode 47, everybody. Thank you so much for listening, watching, whatever you do. Remember, share this with a friend. You know, like if you're watching on social media or whatever, that always helps us out. But even just like word of mouth, you know, if you do think that if you watch and you think that we're entertaining, or if you think that we're not entertaining, just tell someone. You know what I'm saying? Because word of mouth helps more than you think it does. Because algorithms are stupid. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. Hit him with the outro, Soren.